Intimacy in pre-modern China and Chinese views on intimacy have undergone dramatic changes. In early Chinese society, homosexual, polyamorous, and extramarital relations were commonplace. When Taoist intimacy practices came into play, men and women viewed intimacy as a means to enrich their spirit. Men used it as an outlet to maintain and focus their jing, or essential life energy. In ancient China, intimacy was unrestricted and practiced fairly indiscriminately. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly what intimacy was like in ancient China culture, because it was so many things. This video explores the many facets of ancient Chinese intimacy, while providing some very strange facts about old Chinese dynasty times. Welcome to History Mystery. Today we look at kinky, intimate lives of ancient China. Subscribe, like and share for more weird stories. Like opium dens, sedan chairs, and bat-wing junks, women with bound feet were once stereotypical to China. It was a tradition for Chinese women to deliberately cripple their feet through foot binding to conform to make ideals of beauty. Crippled feet required one to walk in a certain mincing manner to avoid toppling over. As a result, it was believed, the inner thigh and pelvic muscles became unusually tight. Thus, more lurid thought processes went: the smaller the bound feet, the stronger the genital muscles would be during intimacy. Adult human feet reduced to 10 cm long stumps, the fabled golden lily feet, were the most prized. Ultimately, it was all about male intimate satisfaction. Homosexuality was neither uncommon nor condemned in ancient China. Several early Chinese emperors are speculated to have had homosexual relationships accompanied by heterosexual ones. Notable homosexual dynasties include the Song, Ming, and Qing dynasties. Many emperors of the Han dynasty were known to have at least a few men in their collection of male intimator partners. They each had a male favorite who received great privilege and power in exchange for their intimacy. An example of this is the story of Emperor Ari and XIAN, who shared the passion of the cut sleeve. The term, the passion of the cut sleeve, became a euphemism for intimacy between two men in Chinese culture. Other terms for homosexuality included the divided peach, male trend, allied brothers, and the passion of Longyang. The general attitude towards homosexuality in China was tolerant, as long as homosexuals fulfilled their filial duties by getting married and continuing the family line. There was neither eulogy nor criticism of the homosexual phenomenon in ancient China. Lesbian relationships were likely as common, but not as well documented as same-gender relationships between men. Accounts paint parts of northern China as much more hospitable than most ancient societies, to say the least. It was reportedly common practice for men to let travelers get intimate with their wives. People believed that travelers were distinguished, and an evening with them would bring in new blood to the family and herald a better future. Husbands would set travelers up with a place to stay and ensure all their needs were met. Intimacy schedules. In ancient China, emperors juggled a very full and complex intimacy schedule, which was essentially a tightly controlled rotation of concubines chosen from a roster of thousands of women. Chinese emperors often had thousands of concubines because they believed that the more intimate partners they had, the longer they would live. Concubines were women who lived with a man but had a lower status than his wife. They were usually chosen for their beauty or talent, and they could provide intimate pleasure and companionship to the man. However, they also had to compete for his attention and favor, and they often faced jealousy and mistreatment from the wife and other concubines. The Yellow Emperor, the legendary first emperor of China, from whom all other Chinese are believed to have descended, is reputed to have become immortal by getting intimate with 1,000 young virgins. The last Sui emperor, Sui Yangtu, AD 581 to 618, took the throne after murdering his father and older brother. He had a queen, 2 deputy queens, 6 royal consorts, 72 madams, and 3,000 palace maidens, but even that wasn't enough to satisfy him intimately. The people of Xinjiang, a remote region of northwest China, are not only responsible for creating the earliest form of erotic work, but also some of the most graphic smut in the ancient world. The carvings were discovered in the 1980s by Chinese archaeologist Wang Binghua. Among other things, the 3,000-year-old petroglyphs depict a massive, intimate group activity, complete with monkey masks and possible spectators. In 14th century China, brothels were legal, registered, and tax-paying businesses. During this time, there was no social stigma associated with visiting prostitutes, which meant both employees and clients were respected throughout communities. The Sung dynasty princess XIAN allegedly even had her own custom bed at a brothel made to accommodate up to 30 men who would pleasure her simultaneously. Legally, a man could have only one wife at a time, and wives were not supposed to be sold into slavery, but in practice both wives and daughters were sold into brothels, where the girls took the name of the madam as theirs. This suggests that some women were treated as commodities that could be exchanged intimately or loaned out for money or other benefits. Emperor Sui Yang had a particular thing for teenage virgins and reportedly used a wheelchair to capture them. The customized wheelchair was to ensnare teenage virgins in the optimal position for intimacy. It was called the virgin wheelchair, and when a young woman sat on it, clamps sprung up, holding her arms down and spreading her legs apart. Then a mechanized chair cushion tilted her up according to the emperor's preference. Intimate images painted on silk were gifted to newlywed couples as learning materials for their wedding night. Some of these wedding tiles date back to the Eastern Han period, AD 23 to 220, and didn't exactly set the stage for a romantic evening between man and wife. Some depicted group action or partner swapping, pointing at a relaxed attitude towards monogamy. Taoists believed that losing too much jing, the essence of life, could result in illness or death. Jing is a term in Taoism that refers to the essence or substance of life. It is one of the three treasures, along with qi, energy, and shen, spirit, that constitute the human being. Jing is the subtle, latent energy, or yin. It is associated with the saliva and other bodily fluids. Since jing is basically the amount of life in a body, it would make sense that Taoists encouraged men to redirect the energy and experience of intimacy to other parts of their body, instead of releasing. Ancient Taoists believed that by keeping male fluid in the body, it would nourish their bodies and spirit. Another strange love tradition in ancient China was the practice of alchemy and intimate techniques to achieve immortality. Taoism is a philosophical and religious tradition that originated in China around the 6th century BCE. It is based on the concept of Tao, which means the way, the source, or the principle of everything that exists. Taoists believe that by following the Tao, they can achieve harmony with nature and themselves, and ultimately attain immortality. According to legend, the first emperor of China, known as the Yellow Emperor, became immortal after getting intimate with thousands of virgins. Taoists believe that the human body contains a vital energy called qi, which can be cultivated and manipulated through various practices, such as meditation, breathing exercises, martial arts, alchemy, and intimate techniques to gain spiritual immortality. One of the ways to reach this level was to go intimate with virgins. Taoist intimate texts ranked women into tiers based on how old they were, and teenagers were the most desirable for the amount of jing they could provide through doing it. Thank you for watching. Which one do you think is the most kinky tradition? Let us know in the comment box.